Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome back, everyone. We're here today with Shaily Hakimian. She is a social media expert, or one could actually go as far to say she is a social media guru, and she's going to talk to us about how she handles social media. Here's a little bit about her background. As a strategically opinionated first-generation American, Moroccan, and Iranian heritage, I feel like it's my duty to push as hard as I can in life to make my parents proud of all of the sacrifices they made to come to Chicago. I work in social media teaching, and I earned my teaching degree from Indiana University, and I have used my skills in various capacities, including in facilitating my own workshop and incorporating technology into the classroom. I have a live streaming enthusiast. I have been on Periscope since the beginning. I get people to debate over juicy topics with me, from current events to social politics. I am looking forward to sharing my personality and my positive energy with others. Everything I do, both online and off, is based on engagement. I am all about building relationships with students, professionals, friends, both online and offline and beyond. I will tell you this much about Shaily. She is a fantastic person and a wonderful, funny person to listen to and to talk with. So why don't we bring Shaily onto the show now? 5, 4, 3, 2. So anyway, it was a wonderful introduction I just did, right? But I screwed up. You know where I screwed up? I forgot you don't call yourself a guru, you call yourself a Sherpa.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. Anyway.
No, it's good. It's good. Like sometimes you don't just go with it, but it's like
Yeah.
also like, oh, there's sketchy gurus out there. I'm like, I'm not one of them. I'm a real person. I'm not like some internet scammer, but also like guru is also a religious thing too. So I want to be mindful of that. But
Well, and I and okay, to get to this, right? Because you're you're a Jewish girl, right?
yes.
And your your parents immigrated from two what people really think of as Arabic countries.
Yeah.
Iran and Morocco, right? It's like,
yes, you get a lot of flavor here.
yes. So, and I did warn everybody, of course, in the introduction that, hey, be prepared to laugh because Shaily
Oh my
is a
god.
funny girl.
Look, life has to be fun. We got to make it fun where we can. And I just, you know what people always say, like, sure, they've got all this great energy. And I'm like, I'm like inspired by the world around me, and like everything is interesting to me. Like I get yelled at by my boyfriend. He's like, every time you drive somewhere, you're always looking at things and like watching what's on the side of the road. Like, because it's cool and interesting. Like I think the world is fascinating. I think people are fascinating. And there's always more. And I know you like stories too, right? There's more to every person. And
Yeah.
I get real jazzed digging into people. So, and I know you do too. You've been hosting this you've been doing a lot of work for the show. So,
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm with that. That's what it is.
Well, somebody quoted me an interesting statistic in a couple of shows back, right? That I had never thought of
Ooh.
is the fact that we have been doing this show for almost 5 years now, right?
Holy smokes.
Right? Okay. So you just blurted out your midwesternness in the United States with the holy smokes, by the way.
Chicago in the house. Here we go.
There you go. Um, but he's this guy. He's from New York. He said the average uh podcast only lasts for like maybe 12 episodes or something like that, and then they die out.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
here's the secret sauce, right? And you tell me how you feel about this as being the
Ooh.
social media Sherpa that you are, right? The
Ooh.
secret sauce is we keep everything fresh and new. It's like it isn't always
Mm.
the same old, or like it isn't a series of here we have 12 episodes on how to use Twitter. It's like, well, that gets old after a while, right? We keep it's fresh new stories all the time, right? Like you, fresh and new.
Oh, for sure. I mean, keeping it fresh keeps it exciting for you, right? Like I've had client after client where they try to do too much too fast and they're like, I'm over it, and they quit, which I'm sure is what a lot of podcasters do. They're like, I want to be famous and I want to be a podcaster. And then they do a few episodes and they're like, why does nobody like me? And I'm like, because you haven't given enough time and you haven't put enough effort into it for it to gain some traction or to like care about it, or you haven't found passion in it. And if you hate it, you're not going to stick with it. So like I always say that, like it's like you have to enjoy it, right? So if you don't like your show, if you're not having fun by whatever it is that you originally created, you let it go. And I had a show on Periscope I did many years ago, but Periscope's dead. Moved it to LinkedIn, did like 4 months of it, and then I was like, you know what? I'm not excited by this anymore, and the amount of effort it's going to take for me to make this happen.
Hmm.
And I was like, I'm just going to do what I like. And I've adapted it. And if I don't love making the content that I make, I'm not going to do more of it. So the fact that you are so committed and enjoy it and you keep it exciting for yourself is a huge testament. But also, you've done my favorite thing on social media, which is be consistent, right? You could have started and you could have quit, never done anything again, which is probably where most of these podcasts fall. So just to stick this long, like you're probably in the top tier of podcasters. I'm sure somebody has a stat. So good for you. And that applies to social media too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's the whole thing, right? It's like stick
Right.
to it, right? Kind of thing.
But you
Um.
have to love it to want to stick with it too. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
So, and it's got to be worth more than just like, I'm going to be famous on the internet. It's like,
Well,
there's more to it.
no. See, here's another fun story, and I'm going to give a shout out to a friend of mine, Karen, who's running for office in Langley Township here in British Columbia, and her daughter is saying
Mm.
that she wants to be an actor, and her mom's wasn't. She's not on board with it, but she's not like discouraging it either. Because at least it's a cool hobby, right? Because
It's hard.
how many actually make it to the big time where they start making movies and stuff consistently, or like that famous Chicago guy that we were talking about earlier, Eric LaSalle, right, who went from doing Dr. Benton on ER to actually he's one of the major producers in Chicago Med, Chicago Fire, and Chicago PD, which you said you witnessed the sets traveling around the city, right?
Oh, we have a place called McCormick Place, which is where you have all of the big trade shows. And I was going there for like some conference or something. And I'm like looking at it, I'm like, am I at McCormick Place? Because I'm like, it was like a hospital. And I was like, what is this? And I was so confused. I'm like, this is McCormick Place, isn't it? Like, when was there a hospital built here? And then I realized that they had disguised this big trade show place as a hospital. And I was like, and I was in the middle of a set. And I like literally walked past some of the background actors and it was all set up. I think I have pictures somewhere on my phone. I think I put on my Instagram. I was like, this is weird. So I'm like, wow. But I've had friends be on a bunch of these too. So it's very interesting. I think some have been on the fire one. And anyway, it's very crazy. But yes. It's wild. Oh, the thing I was gonna say about the acting is here's where I think the real magic is. This is like a whole other sidebar of my life. But I'm always like, I wish everyone had the capabilities and the resources to be able to do the thing that they were uniquely built to do. Like I know you love doing podcasts. I want everyone to do the thing that they love and have that be their either bread and butter or their joy. And so when it comes to acting, like if you're trying to be a famous actor and the only thing you see as a way to be successful is to be famous and to be big, then you're missing the point. I'll give you this example of an actor, comedian, improviser that I love and adore. And he was like a starving actor. I think he was even what was he doing? He was what is it called? He was uh squatting in a house in Chicago. And he's so talented, but he had no like very limited income from this. And it was hard. He had a hard life. And over time, he got some like therapy or whatever, and he decided himself he wants to be a therapist. He got a girlfriend, he got his life together, he even moved, and now he's like learning to be a therapist. And I'm like, for him, like the success story that I can see so crystal clear from him, if he wanted to, and he could probably do more, is he can write a book and he can do workshops and trainings and use his acting skills to help people with therapy, and he'd be a public speaker about it. Is that I think we are too funneled into what you can do with acting skills, but you have to be prepared, right? Like my boyfriend is a linguist and he loves it, but he also knew doing programming, which is related to like what he was doing for computational linguistics, was going to be more income generating. But he gets to kind of meld a little bit of those two worlds, and then he has more free time for his hobby. So you have to do the math for yourself and utilize your skills, but also be sort of realistic. And then ideally you can work from there. You had a strong reaction, I saw.
Yeah. I did because my advice to this girl was to make herself into some sort of entertainment brand, right?
Oh, you could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that can entail a lot of different things, including um becoming because she's good at TikTok, which
Oh,
social media platform. She could become the TikTok Sherpa, right?
I mean, you could. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do on TikTok and a lot of different stories you can tell. And if you're an actor, that's a huge advantage. And if you know how to make videos, it's two skills that you can merge to make a skill set, right? And keep adding more skills to it, and you've got a golden opportunity.
Yeah. So as our social media Sherpa, um, it yeah, she's flexing her social media muscle.
Oh, right. They don't know. They can't see it. Well, too bad. Be jealous.
It's
You're not
radio.
here with us.
They can't. They can't see the flexes. I had to describe them.
I
Um,
love it.
how do you teach people to turn like their stories and their passions into followers and get people to jump on board with them so that they get the following that they should have?
Well, here's what I'll tell you is that the people that I work with are already like secret influencers. And I know we're talking about influence today, right? Or part of it, right? Is this
Mhm.
experience here is that they already have influence. They already have it in their real life. This is how business and life has been operating for thousands and thousands of years. Oh, you have the best potatoes? Great. I'll trade you my onions. Like, whatever. Like, you've like, there's people like that, like real estate agents or connectors, or my dad is a jeweler and like he knows everybody in town, right? But those people might not necessarily know how to stay in touch with those people with the advantages that the internet gives you. So for those people, they've already got people that love and adore them. It's just putting them in a place where they can show up consistently to remind those people how awesome they are, but also to educate them on whatever it is your skill is. So if you're starting from zero, it's a little bit harder. So I say the people who can get the most benefit from like working with someone like me are people who already have that influence. But I've had a series of clients come my way who are hobbyists, who are trying to build a passion project, which is like, I don't know, I had a couple, especially a couple specific ones this year. One of them rode a bike across the United States, which is mind blowing. Like for 4 months, rode a bike from California to Florida. And he wanted just people to see it and understand him. Do you have a reaction to that? Is that wild?
Yeah. It's just that's just crazy. It's like, especially
Yeah.
where you're riding the bike through is like, because there's some pretty steep hills, there's some mountainous passes, and like narrow passes with traffic just like blow you straight off a cliff or something, right?
Oh, he had moments like that. I read the whole book and he had a lot of moments where it was like stressful and fearful, right? And for him, like he had his own network and he wanted strangers and he's like, I don't want to talk to my people. I don't want to do that. And I've been there. I was like, even me, oh, I don't want to talk. And, I don't tell people on Facebook as much about my work as I do on LinkedIn. But like, he was nervous to tell that story and he didn't know. Like he came to me and he's like, Charlotte, I don't really know what I'm supposed to post. Like sometimes people are just stuck with content ideas. And so it's pulling out information so that when he wrote something on a blog or he wrote something on Facebook, people can not only see that he's doing cool stuff, but they can like learn from his journey, which is part of what he wants to inspire into the world, to inspire people to take their own adventures, right? But he didn't know how to shape that rather than just like, here's what I did, check. It's here's what I did, and here's how it's going to help you achieve what you want to achieve. And that's a very different lens than just like, hey, this is my product. Now, for him, like book sales are important, but for him, it was learning how to take that stuff out of him and put it out in a way that's authentic to him, right? And another guy wanted to build a social media platform for a Jewish community that's underserved. And for him, he needed to build up the connections, but for him, he needed PR because he had PR. He was good at PR. And I was like, you should utilize that skill to get you eyeballs. But if you're going to get eyeballs, you need to capture people so that when they find you in the news article, they stay in touch with you and they're on your email list and that you can cultivate that over time. So you have to, if you don't have that influence, you have to build it yourself. And sometimes it's the one thing I can say you guarantee you can do it one by one by one and you genuinely care about everyone that's a part of it. That's one way to guarantee success. Is that easy? No. Is it hard? Yes. There's other ways to go about it. You can get an Instagram hacker and all these people, but ultimately you're going to want to be connected to your audience. And the more engaged you are, the more powerful you can be with whatever influence you want to create.
So this is one of the things I hear a lot of people say about social media because they come to me thinking that I am a social media expert because I get out there with the podcast,
They
but
trust you.
yeah, they trust me. But the thing is I'm really not a social media expert. Um, I am a media expert, meaning that I know how to transfer information from one person to the next person. But
Ooh,
but right? Isn't that what media
thoughts for
really
you.
means, right?
I mean, I have thoughts for you, but yeah.
Yeah. But the one thing that I keep hearing from a lot of people that when I talk to them about social media is to stick to a platform. How true is that?
I would say it's good to prioritize your energy. I think one of the biggest things I tell my clients, I'm like, you might actually have to do less work on the internet. And they're looking at me like, really? And I was like, yeah, because if you're wasting your time on platforms where no one's looking, like you're not, that's not a smart business move for you.
Mhm.
So I would say prioritize, like people say usually one or two. Like for me, I prioritize my email marketing, my LinkedIn, but you'll occasionally see stuff pop up on YouTube and Twitter. Not that I prioritize those, but it's a great place to hold thoughts when they're randomly coming out. But am I going to get my next client from there? No, probably not. And I could put that energy in there, but the trade-off for the effort, what do I say, the pain to profit ratio, I think, I don't know if I made that up. The pain to profit ratio is not great, right? I could do something really good if I worked really hard on Twitter, but like it probably wouldn't be worth it because I know that my people are already living on my LinkedIn and my best people have already said, hey, I like you on LinkedIn. Can I get more? And they've come onto my email list. The other thing I want to tell you is, and this is hard. This is a hard thing that I always was processing for a long time. You were saying something about yourself, and you're like, "Oh, I'm not a social media expert. I'm a media expert." I had somebody say, a former client was like, "Oh, Shaily, you're like my business coach," and I was like, "I'm not a business coach." And then I was like, well, to her, I'm a business coach because for her, she was at a very different level of her business than I was at the time. And she had not quit her job. And so for her, I was the genius, right? But for somebody else, like I might sound like I know nothing compared to like somebody who's worked at a mega corporation like McDonald's doing social media. But
Mhm.
the reality is, it's not that I don't know things or you don't know things about social media, is that you might be at the level of where somebody's trying to learn. And there's thousands of different marketers and there's a marketer for every different level of where you are.
Yeah.
And you might be the social media expert for someone who, is completely clueless on it, so there, I would give yourself more credit because I'm sure you know more than you realize. And they also trust you. When they trust you on one thing, they might want to trust you on other stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, going back to LinkedIn, um,
Yeah.
there's our connections, which gratefully you are a connection, uh,
Yes.
and
I
then
love
their
LinkedIn.
followers, right?
Right. There's followers. They're related because when you have a connection, they usually become a follower. You can be a follower without being a connection.
Right.
You want to know more? I could explain it in detail, but I don't know what your people want
We'll,
to
we'll,
listen to.
we'll get back to it in a little more detail.
Okay.
This is where it is why people think that I'm the social media expert is because
Oh.
I have thousands of people following me on
Ooh.
LinkedIn,
Now I'm
And I also
curious.
have like, I don't know, close to 12 or 1500 connections.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess as somebody that doesn't hasn't even achieved maybe 500 connections, I guess maybe I look I look more like I know more than than what I do. And if I'm following you correctly, you're saying I could teach them what I do, and they probably get to where I am.
Potentially, right? And you might like I'm thinking for myself, like some people who call me like are not the most internet literate, right? But for what I know, I can help them get to the next level, right? But you know, it depends on where they are and where they want to go, right? You probably know the technical end of LinkedIn differently than most people, but you're also potentially the most accessible person to them. If they don't like, there might be 1,000 people who are better at what I do in the world out there, but if these people don't ever know how to find those people, then you might be their expert. You might be their only lifeline for, you know, maybe helping them set something up, right? It doesn't hurt to ask more questions. It doesn't hurt to be honest about like, here's what I know and here's what I don't know. They might actually be in a place where they don't get any of it. And you're the closest thing they've got to getting help. So I see this too, as I say this to myself, being open for those possibilities, right? And giving yourself credit that for somebody, you might be their hero. And you probably are. Like you've done this show for so long. People look up to you. So give yourself credit.
Yeah, I do give myself credit on
Good.
that one. I usually when people ask me, it's like how many episodes I've done. I said, I'm sorry, I've stopped measuring in episodes, and I'm in program
Yeah.
hours. And they're like,
Love it.
program hours, and like I said, well, think about it. If each of my episodes is about 30 to 40 minutes, and I have almost 1,500 program hours in, and they're like, oh, that's really amazing. And it's like, and then when I tell them that in my daily downloads that, and this is, and here's an interesting tidbit. Uh,
Yeah.
for on the social media end is the downloads, my daily downloads, while they're almost like 2,500 daily downloads, um,
Holy cow.
that so think about that more than double, that almost doubles what it is that the number of program hours I have. It almost doubles it, right? But the thing is when, and this is the marketing part, right? Because I have a system that goes back and tells me where those downloads are coming from.
Oh,
um about 40% of my downloads aren't coming necessarily from Apple Podcasts or Google Play or any of those other platforms that way, right? While I do get a good bit of them, right? But
yeah.
the platforms are they divide themselves up so that there's nothing comes as close as LinkedIn or Twitter. That's where,
Ooh, interesting.
yeah.
So you know where your opportunities might lie.
So when people say, "Well, why don't I see a lot of your stuff on Facebook?" I'm like, because no one listens to me on Facebook.
Tell them
Is
to
it?
go somewhere else to follow you. Get them on an email.
Yeah. So that's what it see is like. Yeah, get them someplace where the rest of the traffic is, right? So how do we do that?
Yeah, and so well, there's a few ways. First, I'll say this. I actually told this to a client this week. Like, if you were talking about big time social media, like big companies, the rule of thumb is you're supposed to serve people where they are. Now, if you're a small team, it doesn't have 1 million people, then it's a little trickier. So I say either go show up on a platform where it's easy for you to show up and it's your skill set, or where your people are, or where you can bring them. So in your case, what I tell my clients is like I do like something I call it like a showcase page. I don't know what actual social media people will call it, but like let's say your Facebook isn't so pop, like isn't so somewhere you put your energy. I make like one big post, make sure it's very obvious on the top. Hey, you know, here's a little bit about my show. If you want to listen to my show and find out the most up to date stuff, sign up for my email or whatever. Go to my Twitter or follow me on LinkedIn for the most up to date stuff. Because some people will post on like LinkedIn business pages and it doesn't really give you a ton of traffic and it's like a lot of energy that's not always worth it.
Yeah.
So if you can direct people somewhere else, that's one way to go about it. And it lets you move a little bit of your attention. The second thing I say, which I honestly think is like the most jackpot underutilized thing that is a lot of work, but is a good, solid, I feel like guarantee for success, is you personally message people and say, hey, like I care about you, you're a fan, or you've listened to my shows, or you were a guest. Hey, I'm not so much doing stuff on Facebook. I know you checked out my show from there. Are you on Twitter or LinkedIn? I would love for you to follow me there. I'll give you more updates. I appreciate you being a friend from X, Y, and Z, or whatever personal nugget. And when you do that, it does two things. It like shows them you care, because most people will just spam add you to things, which is annoying. And then a second thing, it leaves a line open for communication. If they ever had any questions for you about your business or your show, it's like, oh, hey, how are you? Let's stay in touch. And you never know what that can lead to. It's led to some good things for me. So, but yeah, it makes people feel, and they also, the third thing is they feel more invested in your success. So in my case, whenever I show gratitude to these people or ask them to do something, um, I say, hey, good job for liking, or good job for checking out my post. They want to do it more. They want to support you more because you care, and you're not just like your audience isn't just a number to you. So that's the hard way, but it's the solid way, is to personalize those messages and invite people to where you want them to go. I've seen this work with clients, and I've seen this when people didn't listen to me, but it didn't work for them. And I was like, well, you should have listened. So I can tell stories about that all day. I don't think I can hear you. Is it me or is it you? Oh no. Welcome to the show. I'm going to narrate. Michael is looking around trying to figure out the audio situation. Maybe I'll tell you this story while this is going on, because at least you'll have the recording. But so there's two clients that started at the same time, and they were starting Facebook pages from brand new, and this can apply to other pages too. And one client was trying to build a chess school, one client was trying to build an environmentally friendly house, also another passion project. And I told them both this strategy of like personally invite people to your page and put out information, like have content already on your page that like educates them a little bit or tells them what you're all about. And so they both started around the same time. The guy with the chess school didn't listen to me. The people with the house listened to me. They had 60 followers. He had 300 followers. He was posting content that was not relevant to the moms he needed to wow with his chess school. And the housing project messaged every single person personally. They had those 60 followers. And every time they posted a picture of like their food or their house or their construction project, people came in and engaged with it. Like maybe 15, 20 people out of 60. That's a very high engagement level when it comes to social media. And it's because they've cultivated a community of people that care about them because they've cared about their audience back. And that to me is magical, and it works on so many different platforms, and it works in life too, even if you're offline. So people want to run. That's always an easy hack.
Wow, that's an amazing story.
Yeah.
So yeah,
you
made the dead battery situation recoverable. Oh my God.
Oh yes. I was like, I'm here for it. I'm gonna co-host this thing, and it's gonna be okay. Hey. But I think you still got my recordings. I think we're good.
I was gonna say we should co-host a show together.
I'm here. Look, you get me on the phone, I'll talk. Like I'm here. It's my favorite thing. I love talking to people on podcasts. But if I had to do all the things that you are probably very, very good at, I would be like, like it's a lot of work. And I like it's one of the, I think in terms of media, I want to give you credit because I think first off, you have to do the show and you have to record it. Now, if you're a bad podcaster, you might just do that and you're done. If you're like me, like I literally just recorded it and I uploaded it on Anchor and I was like, it's good enough. No editing, no music, nothing. But if you're a good podcaster like you, right, you're consistent. I'm sure you had a pre-interview with me, right? You had some notes, you had an intro or whatever, right? Right. I don't even know what else you did today. You have all this tech set up. You've invested resources in this. Then there's the promotional aspect, which is a whole other skill set of like, all of that stuff, right? So there's, and then you have to know, like, there's so many skills that you could know, so much research, so much layers, and organizing the calendars and scheduling and agreeing on what the show topic is. Like, it's just, I bless you people, because it is this is hard.
See, this is what makes this kind of a business marriage made in heaven, is because without like exciting people like you, like going out there and posting all over LinkedIn and Twitter for us about what the cool crap that we're doing.
It's good.
We'd be sitting there talking to the air and no one ever hear us.
Well, we give there's a way to multiply love with podcasts,
right?
What?
We got to do what we do best.
Yeah. We do. And you know what? I don't know if this is in your world, but like you have podcast skills. I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to learn things. Like I have friends who are podcasting coaches and stuff, and there's different areas that I'm sure you're specialized in. There's more opportunity there. If that isn't something I know you have the whole media company, so
Yeah,
it's maybe
well,
it's part of the puzzle.
yeah. And I think that's part of our other connection is the human rights stuff, right?
Yes. Activists here, or at least I did a
Yeah,
lot of activism
we're
for a lot
we're both
of
human rights
years.
activists,
Yes.
um I've gone through some of your social media stuff,
Oh man.
we talk about some of the same things, like Israel versus Palestine, and uh and other things around the world that are happening that
Yeah.
are
I do a lot with
aren't
like
very cool to people. You know what I mean?
they're not what to people?
People are just cruel to people sometimes.
Yeah, for me, like the biggest area that I spent a lot of time in is doing a lot of stuff for LGBT youth, LGBTQ plus youth, and making schools safer for them and setting up anti-bullying legislation and working to lobby for that, making schools safer, running workshops for queer youth. Like I used to do a lot of that stuff, even volunteered at a queer youth summer camp. And so there's a lot of stuff there. And that's where I spent a lot of my activism energy. And it's just wonderful. So it's wonderful to see changes happening. Like I was lucky that my school had a gay straight alliance. At least that's what we called it back then, right? But now I'm hearing there's certain schools that have middle school gay straight alliances, and I'm like, that's amazing. But yet there's still so many schools and cities in this country where a kid has to hide who they are and has to be tormented or uncomfortable or scared or hide because they live somewhere that's not great. And that really breaks my heart.
Well, the one thing, because I have people ask me about this all the time when they see me on the street or something like that, um, that they're like, "Well, how gay are you?" I said, "I'm gay because I'm happy to be me."
Oh, it's so funny.
And I allow I that's that's what I just want to be me, and we all
Yeah.
have that is a basic human right, just to be me, or to be for Shaily to be Shaily, right? That's
Yeah.
a base. That is a base.
Shyly sexual over here. Hello. We have to make our own thing, right? It's infinite possibilities.
Yeah, and that
That's
is one of the
beautiful.
really cool things that I learned about you in our pre-interview was that, hey, she's unstoppable at being her. Or,
I
or,
try. I try.
or wait, was that they, or what? However somebody wants to describe themselves, I'm poking fun. But on a serious note, but
Do it.
however you want to describe yourself, it's a cool time because we're allowed to
Mhm.
describe ourselves how we want, right?
That is, I mean, this is so true, right? It used to be that you see somebody on the street and like you only have like their outfit to judge them by. Now you can look at their name tag, find their name, and figure out a lot of stuff about them. Or their internet is boring and it says nothing. And then that just hides a relationship. If you really want to get weird, my business card has like, it's very much against any designer's expectations of a business card. They would, all designers hate it, but it has basically a whole list of things about me that I can have in common with someone that I'm meeting face to face. And so now instead of me just being a stranger, I've now started a conversation with them about the fact that I'm Persian and Moroccan, the fact that I've done work to help LGBT seniors get more cures for loneliness, or you know what elementary school I went to, what college I went to, fun hobbies that I like, thrift shopping, like these things that can start really good conversations. That it was a hospital magician, right? Like fun facts that really start a conversation, but also makes them trust me. And you don't never had that before, right? The only people you had that for are like famous celebrities, but now everyone has their own brand and everyone can control that. You can either have zero or you can stack the deck with information that's going to make you shine.
Yeah, that is pretty cool that we all can have our own brand and
You
it's
could,
out there.
you could,
Yeah,
you could.
yay! So, by the way, your sense of style. Okay, so like
Oh, what are you gonna say?
Shaylee is sitting in her very own pink room, and she's got like shrimp colored uh glasses on, and it's like it and it just works for her. It'd be somebody else, and they look totally out of place, but but Shaily is actually totally in place in her space.
Hello. It's just me. Look, the blessing and the curse of my entire life is that I could only be myself. And in different times, it was a blessing, different times, it was a curse. But um, like all my goofiness, always stood out as a child. And that didn't always help me make friends. And it made things harder for me. But at the same time, I think people admired that I was never scared to talk about things that were taboo and stuff like that. I also didn't have a piece in my, like, whatever everyone else had in their brain, there was a piece missing of like this level of consciousness that I just didn't have. But it also made me so generous and so open in ways I couldn't imagine. And then something happened over the last 5 to 10 years where I kind of lost some of that. And I was like, oh, I have to be like this and I have to be like that, or I have to over perfect things. And I lost some of that. And over the last year, I've loosened up a lot in terms of talking about things, being more open, being more myself. And it's kind of funny because it's like, I don't know, it's funny how life is evolved, but I feel so much more myself this year and doing things the way that I want to do things, right? And doing more podcasts is something that I love. It feels very me. So I'm glad that you get to be a part of you're giving me a space to do that, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. So,
I feel
gr-
accepted.
growing up with where you did where do you have a bullying story?
Yeah, I mean, kids were just I even got bullied. Okay, as bad as it is, I even got bullied by teachers. Like I remember I have a learning disability, and we got pulled out for classes. So first off, people always saw that I was being pulled out. They labeled me, oh, you're dumb or you're different or whatever. Like I couldn't read the books. First off, I couldn't read the books like everyone else. And so my classmates would tell on me to the teacher, like, Shaily didn't read the book. And I'm like, this was not something I was capable of at the time. And it made me like ostracized by like my classmates, or like I was in the special ed class or whatever. And the teacher kept accusing me of cheating and kept like watching everything I did as if I like had done something wrong. And the other two girls that were there never got shit from her, never got anything. And every day she would say, Shaily, you're hurting me. She even said, Shaily, you're abusing me. And I'm like, I was in fifth grade. I don't know how I could have done anything inappropriate next to two other classmates. And it's like the classmates just let it happen. They saw her saying mean things to me every single day. And bless my mother, she didn't know how the school system works. She's an immigrant lady. And she ended up getting this woman fired. It took a long time, but I didn't want this woman in my life. And I could just see her face. It was just so scary. Uh, or even like, it's funny. I think of teachers because there's definitely kids that bullied me. But I remember a teacher, I asked a question to the whole room, and the teacher said, like, basically it was considered a dumb question, and everybody laughed. And she basically said in front of the whole class that was a stupid question. And I was totally mortified. And it was a teacher that I thought I liked. And it just sucks. It was hard, like to not be looked at as someone who had potential was really hard. Like people didn't want to be partners with me. They didn't, all of that stuff, right? Or like there was a lot of embarrassing moments just being different. I mean, look, we've all got stories, but like it just breaks my heart. It's just sad that it does it. But you know what? I'll tell you a good version of this. I had a bully in second grade, who also was a kid of immigrants. And he was also not cool looking back. And he would always make fun of me and say, oh, you're fatso, or he'd make up nicknames for me and all that stuff. I saw him at like a reunion party for our elementary school like 5 or 6 years ago. And like 30 of us from my class were there. And we were all just sitting there dancing. And we're just like, we're going to have fun and we're going to just pretend like all that bullshit didn't happen. And, that alone was already like a form of therapy. And then over the course of a few years, the same guy would come up to me and say hi to me and give me a hug on the street. And he was above and beyond nice. And I was like, why is this guy so darn nice? And fast forward to like a month ago, and he's at a party. He's hello. He felt nice, whatever. And my friend asked, oh, how do you guys know each other? Like, oh, we were in elementary school together. And she's like, were you friends? And him and I both know that we were not friends because he had bullied me. And I said, well, and he's like, yeah, like I wasn't so nice to Shaily. And then he said basically we had group therapy for like 5 or 10 minutes at a bar party where we basically talked about the fact that like, I told him the story I just told you, that I felt good that we were dancing together and he was always so nice to me. And he said, well, he told another person from our class how guilty he felt for all the things he had said to me as a child. And he felt so bad about it, but he's like, it's on me to figure out, like on himself to figure out how to forgive himself and not necessarily on me to forgive him, which was so huge. I feel like a therapist would be so proud of that statement that he had to take care of it for himself. But I told him, hey, I know you don't need the forgiveness, but your kindness over the last 10 years as adults has melted away so much childhood like trauma. And I just want to say I appreciate it. And we give a big hug to each other. And I was like, it's nice to know things like that happen. So never shared that before anywhere. So I love that you pull out stories and it's glad I get to share that with you. Thank you for listening.
So,
So, you're right. People do cry on your show. I saw that note.
yeah.
I saw that. You're like, you might cry. I'm like, am I gonna cry? And I'm like, oh yeah, it might. It's already getting a little waterworky over here. Whew.
Yeah.
Thanks for the therapy.
Stop the emotions, right? Now, to lead it back to social media when
yes,
we're actually talking about these sort of stories, are there some best steps that we should do when we're actually starting out there and trying to get people to join in with us to get people started, or if we have we got the first few hundred in and we're just trying to get past the normal, everybody starts off with about 300 followers, say, and we're trying to get past that 300 and we're trying to get to say to the 2000 mark. Is there like some best practices we should try?
This isn't always the thing that I'm not a big like, let's get the numbers for numbers sake. I'm more of a let's get the good people and let's get them to where you want them to go. For me, it's like if you can serve your 300 people really, really well, just like traditional old school business, they will refer you to other people, or on LinkedIn, whenever you like something, your network sees it and that will amplify your content. So if I like Michael, if I like your post, my people are going to see it and they're now going to learn about Michael, right? They're going to learn about you. And there's a potential there. So I would say serve your people first. So for me, I'm less focused on the numbers, more focused on the quality and like where you can take them. So I say make sure that the content you're putting out does what you need it to do. So if you have a business and you're like, I don't know, in real estate, then maybe put out real estate tips of like, here's 3 things you should know about the current interest rates, or here's how you get a mortgage, or here. And I'm honestly just telling you questions I asked the mortgage person yesterday because I'm like, maybe I'll buy a house in a few years if I can afford it. So like, these are all things that I would love to know. And if somebody relatable to me could put them out there, I'm going to build trust with them. When somebody needs a realtor, I'd be like, oh yeah, you should call that person because I've seen their information show up over and over and over again. And they might become a follower. They might look at your website, right? So for me, it's speak to your people really, really well. And if you do, they will send more people like them to you because that you can trust. Unless your content is impeccable and perfect and like celebrity worthy or something goofy or whatever, it's going to be a lot harder to just like magically pull people in. So that's where I try to put my energy in. What can I control? I want to control that the people see good intel and they know where to go to take a next step in whatever your business is. That's the area that I can best serve.
Yeah. Yeah. See that's way different than some others have said about you got to make sure to using they go beyond like making sure that you share this or that, or and they have all these other formulas and everything. You're sticking to the basics of what was old
Try
school
to keep it
to begin
simple.
with, you know. So yeah,
To say what is as old school as you can get?
I said in what would be old school business to begin with.
Yeah, it's worked and it still works. It still works.
Just serve
So
people where they are, right? So
you yes, and also like use what works. Like, I had a client who's like, oh, I don't have anything on TikTok. Let me just start doing TikTok. And she's like Gen Z. She's like 23. She's like, I'm going to do TikTok. But if you don't love it and care about it enough or know what your purpose is behind that effort, you're missing something. And granted, they do a good job engaging their current client base, but you got to feed, like, if you don't, like, if your best 1,000 people are not being fed by you with information that's going to make them think, wow, like that should already be in place before you're thinking about all these other like hacks and stuff. Because those are the people that are already telling you they want to refer more people to you. They're the people that know the people that you need. So I would say if you need to have that first before you can mess around with all this other stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. So
cool.
Yeah. Anyway, um, unfortunately, our time is
Oh,
tick-tocking. Oh, I said TikTok. Oh my God. It's winding down, and we need to
sure.
get to the get to some business here. Um, it's
Take it home.
Shaily Hack. See, I always say your last name wrong. Say your last name.
Shaily Hakimian. It's all good.
Right? And where are the best places to find Shaily?
Ooh. Well, obviously, I live on LinkedIn, but I'm also on like too many social media platforms at Hakimi45. But where you're going to get the most resources, most insights, LinkedIn or yoursocialmediasherpa.com. And it's funny, this is great timing that the show is happening now and not when I had COVID and when I was sick. So I actually just put together this video series that basically tells you exactly the same strategy I teach my clients. It's not customized for your business, but it'll give you a good idea of how a super connector can move their network somewhere where they can feed them. And it's only 25 minutes. It's super short. And I'm gifting it to people who listen to the show. It might not be on my website when this comes out, but if you want it, find me on the internet on any of these platforms. Say, hey, Shaily, I want that thing you told me about on Michael's show, and I will give it to you. But you can also get a collection of my favorite LinkedIn profiles too to inspire how you talk about yourself on LinkedIn. So, Michael, if you want to look at your LinkedIn and you want to give some more ideas or inspiration, this collection is super fun, give you lots of ideas. So all of that is stuff I gift on my website, yoursocialmediasherpa.com.
Awesome.
Ding.
Yeah. And Sherpa is SHERPA, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Like
Yes.
the great mountain climbers of Mount Everest.
Yep. And the Himalayas or Everest and the Himalayas, are the same thing.
Yeah, in the Himalayas. Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know which. I'm like, kind of all I know is Himalayas,
Oh
and I
yeah,
put a little
I
shout
wanted to say
out to
this
them.
earlier that the cool thing about a Sherpa, and remember this, everybody listening, the cool thing about the Sherpa is the Sherpa already had climbed Mount Everest all the way to the summit before the first Western person ever did it, because they did
Oh,
it on a regular basis. It was a religious thing.
wow, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I for
So
sure want to make sure to honor that story because I know a lot of people use that word, but you need someone by your side to guide you up, a feat,
right,
and
you've
and
already
they
done
do
it.
that, and it's beautiful. They've already done it, so you
Yeah.
don't have to guess. You want someone
So
who's going to hold
Shaylee
your
did
hand.
whatever your goals are with LinkedIn and social media platforms. Shaylee has already done it because she is the Sherpa.
Yes. And I'll say this, maybe I've already done it, but my clients oftentimes already have so much working for them, they just don't know it. And they're trying to find it in places where they shouldn't be looking, or they're getting distracted by like a lot of shiny objects. So I take what they already know and I connect it to what they can do on the internet. And I use their strengths to begin with. I don't tell them go on TikTok tomorrow because that's your only option. I build it around my clients and their skill sets. And that's what I love to do. And I don't think a lot of people do it that way. And that's where having an education background is really, really
Yeah,
handy.
cool. Thank
Yeah.
you. And we'll talk to everybody later on our next episode.
And I looked up at a shooting star, and then I wondered who you are. I just need to know. So I wish upon that shooting star, and then I wondered.
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.